whoa. Sam Adams Jr., one more time. Come on now. Come on, champ. Come on, champ.
And I'll give you the honest reason. The honest reason is we have to sit down and think of what is best for the client. And the judge cut us down from 21 lawyers and 15 paralegals to 2 lawyers and 2 paralegals. And we had to make a determination. Do we do it with the way my father and I did it the first time, where they've learned our tricks, they've learned how we're going to handle this, they learned how to simply object, and then the judge sustains the objections? Or is it better to have him have a fresh look, have my father and I behind the scenes, doing everything we can to make sure that these lawyers are prepared, and then send them in on their style, which the government hasn't seen before? And you're going to see this happen with me and my father out here while the trial is going on, letting people know. One of the things I think is most important in this case now is that the governor has competent counsel, which he has. He happens to have, in my opinion, the best that can do for him. But 2 is, and this is what I want the people listening to this program think, if they can tape record, if they can go after a white governor in a state, what are they doing to us in the community out here? If they are going to deny certain rights, if they're going to have a U.S. attorney stand up and give that kind of a statement before a trial starts and really let the jury know his position, that Lincoln's rolling over in his grave and all of these things, what is happening to the young brothers out here in the street? And I think what's most important is that Rod get the competent counsel that he has, and at the same time, me be out here as an advocate, showing young people the truth and what's really happening in our courts.
You really love the law, and I can see that every time you express yourself. And I want to agree with Steve. You're an amazing defense attorney. 23 out of the 24 counts dismissed. I'm like, I can't believe this Adam team. These guys are unbelievable. If Stacy, Lenny, or Gerard get in trouble, dude, we coming after you, man. And here's the other, I think even more remarkable than Governor Rod Blagojevich was R. Kelly. I mean, the brother was wearing a tailored suit and braids, and he walked. I mean, how in God's name do you get an acquittal out of that? Come on now.
It wasn't him on the tape. I mean, too, I'll be as serious as I can.
I saw that bootleg. I think it was him.
The jury did the right thing.
Tragedy against young women all over the world.
That very well may be, but that's not the question we were there to settle. There's only one question, and we got to keep this in mind in this country, and that is, are we going to have a government that can take one of its citizens and lock that citizen up without proving the charges beyond a reasonable doubt? That's the foundation. That's the whole reason that the 13 colonies broke away from England. That's the whole purpose of having the jury system. Are we going to allow an all-powerful government to take one of its citizens and take his freedom away without having to prove it guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? Now, the young lady in question in that tape came forward and said, "It is not me." And the prosecution never presented that young lady to the jury. Now, what is a jury supposed to do that is upholding its constitution, upholding its right? What happened in that case is very simple. The prosecution failed. And why did it fail? Because it didn't prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Because there's 2 things. In my opinion, it certainly wasn't her, and the people stayed true to what our Constitution says. Now, that's America.
Yeah.
That's American.
Let's talk about this. And I want to ask the 2 of you this question. I'll ask you the question now, and then you can formulate your answer. Are black people in the United States always on trial? That's the question. I'm going to go to you first, Stacy. I want to say this, though, Sam. The 3 of you and some of our audience members may know that my parents were murdered brutally, and the young men were so young, tender age. It was sad going to court. And so what I think saddened me even more than the heinous aspect of the crime was that I almost saw a reflection when I had to go to court each time. I'm like, young men who should have been playing sports, who should have been involved in hobbies, chose to rob my parents for $70, kill them and dump them in a forest preserve? You gotta be kidding me. And so you're right, Sam, everyone deserves a trial. I thank God that we did not have to go to trial because there was a guilty plea. I know, Lenny, you've gone through some situations as well. But are black people on trial? Stacy.
Well, It's called the new Jim Crow system, right? And I think we have to take responsibility for some of this. Things just don't happen all the time. While I'm a strong advocate for us being very truthful about the circumstances that surround many of our young brothers, the inequity and the laws and the distribution of sentencing, I do think we need to address that, but I think we also need to address, and I can't say love enough. Those boys were not loved. You are riding with the devil when something like that occurs, and I am a firm believer in that. We have to retake our children. We put people on this earth, whether or not we understand it or not. I don't care how old you are, how situated you are in your own personal life, your income level. When children come, a whole new world comes along, and everyone is just the same in terms of not knowing anything.
Yeah. Lenny, let me go to you, and if you care to share, please do.
Well, number one, let me get to your question. You said, are black people always on trial? Well, that's not the real question. The real question is, because the answer is yes, but the real question is, number one, who's judging us? And two, who's rendering the verdict? Number one, we just talked about Jalen Rose, Grant Hill. We're so caught up judging each other on some of the most trivial things that we end up indicting ourselves. So whether it's us giving the verdict and being jury and executioner at 2 o'clock in the morning on a street corner, or we end up getting caught up one way or another and having a different type of legal or social verdict being rendered, the truth of the matter is we put ourselves in front of the judge, we enact judgments on ourselves and never give ourselves a chance. Now, in situations with mine, I had to endure my father, who did recover from a shooting. It took him almost a full year to recover. Going through situations of domestic violence, people that I love very, very dearly, going through the types of abuses that women should never have to tolerate. You see the situations before us every single day where these verdicts do play out, whether we want them to or not. The social verdicts, when a man's gonna push a pregnant woman down a flight of stairs or punch a mother in the face in front of her son, or when a crackhead is just gonna shoot a 55-year-old man at 8 o'clock in the evening. Those things play out all the time, but it goes back to who's serving as judge. We think it's just white society. We think it's just the power elite in America. But when we're judging ourselves, and we cannot get to what Stacy's talking about and give love without judgment so that we can heal, we are the jury, and we're passing just as many social verdicts that condemn people as we can get from the power elite or any place else in this nation.
We're going to be closing shortly here. Let me take one more phone call from Calvin. Calvin, thanks for calling off 63rd. Calvin, talk to us.
Okay, thanks for taking my call, Gerard. Listen, I agree with a lot of what was said, but I'm going to say this much about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby is an educated man. He's a very smart man. He's very popular as far as TV is concerned. But guess what? Bill Cosby ain't on what is made up to be, okay? And if you're going to sit up there and use F-bomb, see, the one thing I hate is you selling footy pops to kids, but you must be an example of what you're talking about. Now, I'm not talking about money and all the other stuff. I'm talking about examples. As far as mothers are concerned, look, people give excuses. Like you said, the kids need love. I know the lady that when I was growing up, she had 11 children, 11, I said, and guess what? All of them went to school, all of them graduated when the daddy walked off. So, see, I don't want to hear this stuff about, oh, poor little old me and all this kind of stuff, because it's out there to get. The only thing we have to do is get it. I can remember being in a sales force where I was the only black guy in displays, but guess what? That didn't stop me, and guess what? I was the top money getter in the whole company.
Wow.
But see, the whole thing I'm saying is this, and another thing I want to stress on too, when you talked about that thing up in Madison, Wisconsin, we talk about education. That's a great thing, a great tool to have. Our kids need to be educated. Another thing, when it comes down to that money thing, when they busted the union right there in Wisconsin, guess what? The rest of the world is watching that too. When you talk about working, honest people trying to make a living, and here you're going to talk about cutting off somebody's nose to spite their face, but guess what? Somewhere along you talked about the revolution, there's going to be a day of reckoning when you do people wrong.
Woo!
Thanks so much for taking my call.
Hey,
It's called
Calvin, thank
Election
you
Day.
so much for calling off 63rd Chicago from the beach to the burbs. I'm going to shut this thing down. Stacy, you want to close us out? Calvin, he just gave us an earful.
Well, the day of reckoning is Election Day. Less than 52% of Badgers went to the polls to vote. And then when they heard Walker's stump speech, he talked about balancing the budget. Well, how do you balance a budget? How does this happen? And give me very specific means in which you are intending to do this. We don't ask questions. We are not empowered to vote. And then when something happens, it's boo-hoo us. No, we do hold the power.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Lenny McCallister next. Lenny, final comments on off 63rd.
Truth of the matter is we have to get involved, we have to move forward, and we're going to have to do it in a balanced, combined effort. We're going to have to leverage the best of America throughout America to advance America, because if we don't, we're not going to have an America much longer.
Thank you, Lenny. Thank you, Stacy. Closing remarks go to the counselor. Sam Adams Jr.,
Yes.
close us out.
I would just like to say, anyone watching this and thinking out there, whatever your particular position is, whatever you think, stand up and speak it. And that's been what has been lacking in our communities. That's what's been lacking in this city. Be informed and get out here and stand up. Time is coming. I'm telling you that now. You can no longer in this society, in this economy, afford not to do the things you need to do to get ahead. And we as a people need to stand up, speak our piece, and get moving.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to say thank you for having me today. This is exactly the kind of thing that our community needs to continue.
Yeah. Lenny McCallister, thank you for being on
Thank you,
Off
Gerard.
63rd with Garrard McClendon. Sam Adams Jr., you are definitely a credit to your dad. How about that? Stacy Davis-Gates.
This guy.
Thank you so much for being on Off 63rd.
I'm humble. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us on Off 63rd. I know you couldn't talk to me live on the air tonight, but give me a call right now, 773-487-1352. Send me an email, gerard@off63rd.com, and visit our website, www.off63rd.com. Thanks for watching. Remember, victory is yours. I need you to stay positive, keep your head up, and always be encouraged. Good night.